groups, they should be given more power, more respect, and should be listened to more by the media.
And also, because the headmaster and also the school teacher are always conservative, they refuse these kinds of NGOs to go to school to promote safer sex education. Yeah, they may invite the Truth Light organization, Minh Wang Se, a very famous conservative organization in Hong Kong, to go to school to promote abstinence education. That is to teach students to refuse sex. But of course it's failed.
I think is probably the cultural differences. It's like how it portray in Britain about sex education. Like in Hong Kong, the teachers or your parents would say never do it in the first time, sex after marriage or something like that. Otherwise you'll be evil or something like that. Yeah. And especially in school, you never would find a teacher, especially using a banana to how to put the condom onto the banana. Right? So I think if you ask a couple of teenagers like boys and girls and want to buy the condom in the 7-Eleven and how to use it, they just probably don't know how to use it and use it in the wrong way. Maybe they just put it in the wrong way.
I mean you're absolutely right. And in Britain, for example, where I'm from, it still is quite a conservative country, but I know that in the past 10 years actually there has been a revolution in terms of education. They've brought in a lot more education to help young people and openly now and have quite lengthy it's part of the school curriculum, and schools have to by law teach it now in Britain, and it's getting more like other more sort of progressive and liberal countries like Holland, which is it's got quite an advanced sex education. And it's interesting statistically, if you compare a country like Holland, it's actually got quite a low level of teenage pregnancy and abortion, and that fact, it speaks for itself, doesn't it? And because I know that actually Hong Kong, it's got quite a high level of abortion actually, and it's in some ways it's an issue which isn't talked about that much in public life and in the media, but you can be sure that there's on a weekly basis there's hundreds of a lot of young women who are getting into difficult situations and are having quite it must be quite a traumatic thing having an abortion, and it seems that they're not getting enough support, I think, and from their families as much as and from their boyfriends, I expect as well. I mean, those two cases, it really is shocking, isn't it? And but it's another point I was making, interested to make with the Chinese media. Often with a case like that, they often say, "Look at this shocking thing happened," but they don't really go into much depth about perhaps how we can stop it happening again, and about the issue that perhaps sex education is not good enough in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
The mainstream media, their role is only to exaggerate moral panic.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is not helpful, is it? And in some ways I would like to see, because in Britain the newspapers, they tend to have more campaigns actually, and if this kind of thing was happening in Britain, there would be newspapers launching campaigns actually, and they're not afraid in Britain, the newspapers, of actually having a stance, a real campaign, rather than just sort of say this shocking incident happened. Yeah,
and other ridiculous thing is that mostly the parents will say that I don't know, my daughter got pregnant.
You're right.
I don't know.
I mean, it's amazing. I know as a fact you're right. With this case, the mother was not aware that her own daughter was pregnant, and even though that she was living in the same, I mean, that's amazing. I mean, it makes you think. There's some serious problem actually, and it's not just the children need education, but the parenting, they need better education, don't they, in terms of parenting.
The newspaper, one parent make an excuse that my daughter always liked to wear oversized t-shirt, so right. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean it's just not good enough actually. I mean if you are having a good enough close relationship, you should know actually, and that woman just was not engaged in her daughter's life enough basically, and but hopefully there'll be more more change, and it's almost like a lot of the political groups are afraid of saying what needs to be said, I think, in some ways, in terms of the improvement in education. I know in terms of AIDS awareness, I know that most political groups are publicly now, on AIDS, like World AIDS Day, they like to sort of say, yes, we like to, we are aware it's a serious issue and so on. And perhaps 15 years ago they wouldn't have said that, but I would like to see some change, I think, amongst all of the political groups in Hong Kong to do with sex education, openly saying that there just needs to be much better education to do with it, but things happen slowly in politics, don't they?
But these kinds of NGOs for AIDS prevention is always meeting a problem, that is the conservative organization will do a complaint. Complain them for advocating safer sex. The openness of the Hong Kong society.
I mean, another question I was going to ask: do you think, in some ways, that girls, asking as a woman, do you think in some ways it would be helpful to give young women in schools, young girls, extra education? Because in some ways that can be helpful, I think, because in relationships and so on, women in some ways they have got they've got more issues, haven't they? They have issues which directly affect their body, and do you think in some ways they need a bit more extra education than the boys, or help, let's say?
Actually, teachers and students who want to know more about safer sex education, they can go to Family Planning Association, and also some local women organizations such as AAF in Hong Kong. They organize a lot of safe sex program for teachers and students. So if you want to have more knowledge on this, but your school refuses to do that, you can go to contact these NGOs in Hong Kong.
I mean, let's hope that there will be some changes with it, actually. And just in the last few minutes, I want to ask you guys about another bit of news to do with the Chief Justice, actually. And our listeners abroad probably won't have heard, but it's been announced that the Chief Justice is standing down, Andrew Lee, Kwok Nan, and he's being replaced by his name is Geoffrey Ma.
Geoffrey Ma,
isn't it? Who is at the present who's the kind of the main judge, chief judge of the High Court, isn't he? So he's obviously he's got that position, and